I welcome three guests to our podium on Cradle to Cradle in business. What does it mean in the real world? Basically, that's the real world session this afternoon. I welcome to my left Anne-Christine Naillet from Tarkett. Each of our guests is going to introduce themselves, herself, himself, with the function of what they do in a moment. I have to my right Lars Baumgürtel from a company called Voigt and Schweitzer, much better known as Zinc in the context of Cradle to Cradle, and Garance, Wilbert from Steelcase on my very right. And we do it similar to this morning. We hear a short introduction of the work, the company, the Cradle to Cradle aspects, and then we have plenty of time to discuss in depth about products, about transformation processes, values, and we have plenty of time for questions. My understanding is we have to finish by 3:45. That was the sharp announcement I have just received. Okay, without further much ado, I'm happy to hand over to Anne-Christine.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you to the Cradle to Cradle. Hello, Michael. The Cradle to Cradle Institute here in Germany to welcome Tarkett. And do you know what is Tarkett? Who knows Tarkett in the audience? I hope my Tarkett friends know Tarkett. So Tarkett is the third largest floor manufacturer. So you probably walked on a Tarkett floor one day. So we're pretty global. We have 1/3 of our business in North America, 1/3 in Europe, 1/3 in the rest of the world, Russia, China, Brazil. We make all kind of flooring, so wood, laminate, linoleum, vinyl, carpet, rubber, but also sports surfaces like artificial grass and running tracks. And we sell in almost every market segment. So for homes, for hospital, for education, so schools, offices, sports fields, I mean, everything you can think of. So what do I do at Tarkett? I'm responsible at group level for research, innovation, and sustainability. And they're very much linked to each other. For us, we can't think of sustainability without thinking about innovation, and I think that's pretty close to the heart of the Cradle to Cradle community. And how do we go about sustainability? What does that mean for Tarkett? The first thing we want to do, and we're doing, and we try to do better and better, is to design for life. And what does that mean, to design for life? To design for life is to make sure that every product we design are respectful of people's health, on the life of land, and we keep the Cradle to Cradle principles as a North Star. So we really include them in everything we do. And this is very important because when we do this, we take into account materials health, and we heard about materials health today as being very important. We look at the problem of resource scarcity. We're using as a company a lot of materials, as you can imagine, because we produce 1.3 million square meters of flooring a day. So it's a lot of materials around the world. That also includes what we use in our plant, the water, energy, of course. So this is very, very important, as well as the climate change. But once we've done all this, we also need to design waste out. Waste to be sure that we close the loop. So we design product for longer use. We design product for being reused, that we can eventually take them back or try to take them back. And I'll talk later about the challenges related to this. We also have leasing programs. So really closing the loop is very important for our products. Also using products coming from other industries to close the loops. I mean, we're talking about cascade, so we do that as well. But also have no waste in our operations. And we have 34 sites around the world, production sites, so this is quite significant. But obviously, and we heard that many times today, we can't do this alone. So we also want to drive collaboration, and we want to engage our customers, our suppliers, our NGOs to get on board with us. to develop the circular economy, cradle to cradle, using the cradle to cradle principles, and try to build a good world, because for us the future is good.
Perfect. Could you explain to us last thing? I was going to say, is that the presentation, and are those coffee beans, or is that recycled?
Okay. All right. That's I forgot I had slides. Actually, I was telling you my story. Forgot about the slides. What you see? It's interesting. You see coffee beans. Some people see earth, soil. Some people and actually it's recycled product. It's not just rubber. No, it's not rubber. In this case, it's vinyl. It's vinyl. And so, sorry, but you will see what I was talking about, and you see it here. So, sorry about this. I forgot about the slide. I should have showed you that. But this is the same story, right? The good news, it's the same story. So really, what really want is to do good together. I think it's really at the heart of the cradle-to-cradle approach, and we live it every day.
Thank you so much. It's probably a novelty. It's probably the first time this presentation has been projected on a slated screen. I think that's quite challenging. Remarks for those of you in the back. We cannot judge from here how well the sound is. There's still some seats even right there. There's some. Okay. Then we don't force you to move further up. Okay, that's fine. Next, I'm moving to Lars Baumgürtel. I had the pleasure of visiting your plant a couple of weeks ago, and I think we were lucky with the weather and lucky with what we saw. Happy to hand over, and I'm afraid you have to explain a little bit more what you do. Carpets, flooring is something all of us have ever seen. Why don't you give us an impression of what you do?
Well, I'm trying this without going through the slide exercise, so no slides from my side. My company is Voigt and Schweitzer. We have branded surface products. We are doing hot dip galvanizing on steel. The purpose is to prevent steel from rusting. In order to give you a glimpse of what we are doing, this is a product that we hot dip galvanized. You might know it or not know it from the car. It's what everybody has under the real wheels. It takes basically the connection between the body and the wheel. And it's dynamically challenging because all the movements on the road are going through this piece. And it is, of course, a climate under the car, which is quite challenging. We don't own this product. The product, the steel product, is owned by the car manufacturer. We put on the surface the silvery stuff that you see on it. Okay? Voigt and Schweitzer is getting 500,000 tons of steel every year through 35 plants throughout Benelux, Germany, and Eastern Europe from all sorts of sectors. One of our bigger sectors is automotive, but we also do that for steel that is coming from steel manufacturers for building purposes. So wherever steel is basically fabricated and requires functional surfaces that also give a very good anti-corrosion property, zinc, ZEIQ, Q for quality basically is in the game. What am I doing is very simple. I'm the one that has the pleasure and the pain. I'm owning the company. The pleasure is of course one part, but the pain is of course also thinking about the future of the company. So I envy sometimes the guys in my plants that push buttons and something happens, something is being produced. I have to think about what button to push next in order to ensure that all the other people in my company still have buttons to push. So I'm very much interested to see that the good product that we have here with a lot of the steel that is coming in, with a lot of customers who are quite demanding that we challenge, that we have a response, a solution to their challenges, that we do that, of course, in compliance with approaches, with strategy that my company that will make my company fit to have a sustainable future. And that's also where basically in our company the cradle to cradle aspect comes into play. But that's maybe something that we can discuss a bit later. Thanks.
Before I hand over, a short remark. I think it would help to learn about your brands and hear about your brands. And you have acquired a company which is also a well-known brand here, so maybe we round that up.
That's true. So Tarkett is obviously the company name, but we have different brands. We have Tarkett, obviously. But we also have a brand that you probably know that is called Deso, which is our carpet brand in Europe. So hello, Deso. But we also have Tendus in the US, which is also a carpet brand. We have Sintelin in Russia, Eastern Europe. So Johnsonite also for wall base. So each time you hear about these brands, this is all the big Tarkett family. And I wanted to apologize because I was meant to mention this, but I had forgotten.
That's okay. Garance, Steelcase. I must admit, later on I realized I've seen it before, Steelcase. I thought, what are they doing? Containers? Is that the next big thing? What are we going to see here? Give us an idea what you do, how this cradle story developed, and what your products are. I think that's quite fascinating.
Yes, hi. So I'm gonna stand up. I think that's easier, and I need this thing here. So I work for Steelcase. We are an office and furniture manufacturer. Well, it's not kind of like only that. So I'll tell you how our sustainable design principles contribute to thrive in a circular economy. So what we do actually, we unlock human promise. That's big words. What is that actually? So we are in the people's business, right? So our intention is that people are living a well-being. So, and how do office furniture contribute to this? Well, it's about choice and control. So, if my employees people have the choice, they can unfold creativity. Mindfulness is a big part of that. So, however, we are here at the Cradle to Cradle conference, right? So well-being, I think my other speakers, there was a question in the audience. We are not talking about humans so much. So, well, a big part of well-being of people is the material health of products. So I was asked to not bore you with a lengthy presentation, so I rather want to take you on the sustainability journey or the cradle-to-cradle journey at Steelcase. So normally we show our product. So the first office furniture product that was produced and cradle-to-cradle certified in 2004 already. But instead I want to show you this. Part of a sheep and strawberries. So how does that come together? Well, before 2004, when we certified our first cradle-to-cradle product, actually, this went back to an early relationship or cooperation with McDonald's. So they worked together on a fabric that is sustainable and that was made from wool. So, and the intention was to use that fabric to have the isolation for the strawberries and be more environmental friendly with that. So this was the early inspiring of our cradle-to-cradle journey. that took us to the first Cradle-to-Cradle certified product, and the relationship in between the McDonough-Braungart Institute was found there. So our material health work is inspired by the Cradle-to-Cradle thinking. So this is very complex, right? So that's what we do. So there is like different levels of material health you can take in the product. So first you need to be compliant to all the legislations. So, but you can do more. You can have substantial material disclosure, which is kind of the middle of the tree. But you can also have like the full material disclosure. So and this thought is brought back to the development of our products. And that's actually what I do. I bring that knowledge to the product development teams. So we are kind of core part in the core product development team to then have these thinking implemented into our products. However, that's not enough. So how can we thrive in a circular economy? That's the question. So the biggest thing is that we kind of need to change mindsets. So how can we do that? It's like, so that's why we partner with many organizations. We partner just with the Cradle-to-Cradle, so the MBDC, the McDonough-Braungart Design Chemistry Institute. We partner with Ellen MacArthur Foundation and also Biomimicry Institute. And it's like, and it's the education of people, right? So we educate because it's the shared knowledge that will lead us to thrive in a circular economy. And I leave you with that. Thank you.
It's interesting, you've already led us into the depth of how do you do it. But once again, you say office supplies, so what is it? Chairs, desks, containers? I mean, I think we should have the complete overview. I mean, it's interesting, the most abstract process has the most tangible product here today, and I've learned it's healthy to touch it, right? Because zinc is very healthy for your immune system. It's
7 milligrams per day is the minimum intake, unless you don't want to exit this planet game.
So I probably have to keep doing this all day. That's the one thing, and if you have too much zinc, it leaves your body without any problem, and I think it's one of the few things which are really healthy to touch. Should we leave it?
Yeah, we will distribute the nutrition now.
But did you know that whenever you keep to a zinc handle or whatever, it's really healthy. And when I was in your factory, I asked the guys at the how do you call that, at the bath? I asked them, do you have less sick people in the wintertime than in other companies? And they didn't get the question and said, in the winter we all love to work here because it's really hot at the zinc bath there. And it's probably one of the healthiest places in the manufacturing industry you can
quite
have.
interesting. And another aspect of zinc is that of concerns the male part of the audience. The guys at the zinc bath directly exposed have the most children. So it's no, it's no kidding. It has a very deep impact. Zinc has on human regeneration.
So guys, keep giving this thing around, okay? But
so
let's go back
Juliane,
to the product.
You asked me what,
yes.
what we are doing. Well, we are an office furniture producer, right? But we unlock human promise. So we like contribute to the well-being of people. So you get the whole concept. So with having like Cradle-to-Cradle certified products and this healthy material thinking implemented into our whole product development process, you have like you unlock the well-being of people so that they can enable the creativity of people.
I think that is a topic for what is the value you actually communicate, and is it really being recognized? and also being paid for. I think that is something you would probably also share. But let me go back one step before we do that. You said you had your first certified product in 2004.
Yes.
Okay, when did you start with the process, and when did you come up with the first product?
Oh,
Do you know?
that's a tricky question. As I said, so our first engagement with the kind of cradle-to-cradle approach was already with that fabric I just showed.
And when was that? Do you know, roughly?
Roughly.
No, I'm going to do
It
the
took-
round. I want to have an idea. Does it take like,
So-
is it something you do like this, or is it a long
Let
way?
me give you another answer. So for the Think certify, so to certify Think has like about 222 pieces. And materials that go into the chair. So you need like about 40 suppliers that deliver you the material, so the parts. However, you might need like 500 to 1,000 material assessments to actually know what is in this kind of product. So the complexity is big. So of course it takes some time. Today, it takes about 6 months to disclose.
Yeah, but setting up the process the first time was the big thing. Let me
Yeah,
do
it
the
was
round
a
and
big
get an
thing.
idea for that. Do you recall when you started to think about it, when the first product was out there?
Absolutely. So we didn't start as early as Steelcase. We started 5 years ago when actually I introduced Michael Braungart to our former CEO, Michel Januzzi, and they decided to embark on the cradle-to-cradle journey. And the first product that we actually, our purpose, our main objective is not necessarily certification. The certification is one way to communicate, is good for our marketing, salespeople. What was more important for us is to be sure we're designing the product the way it should be designed and understand what we're doing and understand the impact and have to be able to move to a positive impact. So when we, but still, we have, I think we are the floor manufacturer with the highest number of certification. We have more than 30 certifications, which means a absolutely huge number of products, because for instance, wood floor, we have one certification for every plant everywhere in the world. So you can imagine there are much more than one wood product coming from Tarkett. So, but in terms of certification, it's a pretty high number. The first product we actually certified was our linoleum that is made out of Italy. And the team have been so engaged right from the beginning that I think it took us probably 6 months, not more than that, to get the first certificate. And since then, they got the first gold certification, they've improved. I mean, they keep on innovating with their lino product. I'm not sure for Deso, when was your 2008, so it was before, because at that time you were not part of Tarkett, so it was before that. And so I think it took you about the same amount of time, probably 6 months to a year, you don't know? Excuse me? Even less for the first product, yeah. So we didn't try to do it all. We obviously started with one product. And what takes time is to get all the input from the suppliers. That's really what takes time. I will say that. And since then, we've assessed more than 3,000, almost 3,500 materials in 4 to 5 years. So it's absolutely huge what the teams have been able to do around the world, and this obviously in a close collaboration with EPA.
Thank you. So how long did it take for you?
Well, to cut a long story short, we started discussions and started the process for the first hot galvanizing surface to become cradle-to-cradle certified in 2011. And we got the certificate after a process of 2 years, roughly. That is linked a bit to the fact that we have a big integration of the value-added chain within our process. We don't have a product only, but we also have the process connected with this. And we have a full-fledged certification for the processes based on 300 substances, which we had to look at. I thought the thing that we were doing, putting steel products into a molten zinc bath, is rather simple. I was really amazed how many chemical substances we had. And also to be noted, and that was a very good exercise, all of these substances in the material health audit were looked at, and we had to look for replacement for substances where we didn't think there were a problem. The ones where we thought, ooh, could be something, no problem, but some substances where you would think that they are not really dangerous, or toxic or recyclable, they pose the problem, and that's the innovation part of the certification. I mean, even if we wouldn't have gotten the certification, we would have been happy, very, very happy about the fact that we underwent the process of looking at the substances and everything that we are doing. I talked about the future. So we knew what was going on, and we had to innovate together with some of our suppliers who were very surprised because they didn't think they were a problem, but they were for the certification. End of 2013, as I said, first certification. We also innovated on the product that you saw there for the car manufacturing site. That is a different product called MicroZinc, and that got certified 2015.
After this morning's discussions, I'm tempted to say if you still had some problems with some materials and you wouldn't have gotten the certification, you could have called it a cradle-to-cradle inspired product. I really like that because it's kind of vague, but it gives you an idea.
For me, really, it would have been the attempt, but it would have demonstrated to me. I mean, nothing against cradle-to-cradle inspired, but for me, the black and white is important.
I
right?
absolutely agree.
Gray for some people might be okay, but for us, the challenge was, are we a company that can be cradle-to-cradle certified, let's say the hard way? That's the pain part of the business.
Let's go back when all of your companies started to think about cradle-to-cradle or sustainability. Do you remember how the implementation process went? What were the difficulties? I mean, the good thing is, I think the good news is, if you say 2 years, that's not long. And whenever you have discussions about, I mean, I know it's a long time if you say we want to bring out a new product, I know. But on the other hand, we always have in the discussion, it takes a lot of perseverance, it takes a lot of endurance. It does not mean it takes a whole generation. It does not take 15 years. And I think those are good news. I mean, if you certify, if you have to check 3,000, 4,000 materials, 300, and you can do it in a few years, I think those are good news. If you talk about the development cycle of a car or whatever, we won't get a new type of car within 3 years. So maybe you reflect back on how did the whole implementation project, whole implementation process take part, who was on board, who was important, what were the difficulties? Do you sometimes feel it was a crazy idea to go enter that journey? I would love to hear from everybody, how do you really make it happen in a company? Because it's much more than the product.
Okay. When we started, we were a very small number of people that were convinced that the cradle-to-cradle journey was the right journey. That included our CEO. That was the good news. And we started small because when when people are not convinced, it's good to start small and prove it is working. So we started. We engaged some very young engineer that some of you may have met. Who is no longer with Tarkett today, but it's called Felix Bezzati, and who was very, very engaged and worked hand in hand with EPA. And with that, we got our first certification. And I remember, I'm a member of the executive committee. I was the only woman, and you could see my male colleagues making fun of me because of my cradle to cradle. Nobody knows cradle to cradle, right? What are you doing with your cradle to cradle? And we continued, and then we had more people that were convinced that was the right thing to do, and then we started to have marketing asking for more certification because they could see how they could use it. And then we presented it to the shareholders because we had done all this, I wouldn't say secret, but they were not very environmentally driven. And we showed what we had done, and they just loved it. Because at the same time, started to come this circular economy concept that everybody talked about. And we were very well advanced. We had innovated. We had customers happy with what we were doing. We had then Deso on board with the same philosophy. And so at the end, today, it's kind of amazing because people are, even from the marketing side, they're asking for it. And you could see a major change. Now, materials health, and we talked about the 3,500 materials we've assessed. It's a lot of work, so you can imagine the number of people we have now working on this. But it's also making sure that there is no end of life, but an end of use, right? And this is where this is sometimes becoming by far more complicated. So I'll give you an example that will speak to you. We make artificial field, and you can imagine it's a sort of carpet. In the carpet you put sand, and then you put rubber because it will absorb the shocks. And this lasts for about 10 years. So an artificial field with artificial grass lasts for about 10 years. So we were getting close to the time to renew and to change them. But you can imagine with the sand, and when you have to cut the field and you have to transport it, you need a lot of trucks. It used to go to landfill. It was extremely heavy, lots of trucks, and we were not recycling anything. So that's where we started to develop some very new technologies. So we now have machines that go on the field. They can on the field separate the sand, the rubber from the carpet. Then we have invented another machine that on the field or on the site can actually clean the sand and the rubber so it can be reused. We can roll the carpet. We take the carpet, we wash the carpet, and we make absorption pads that we put under our artificial turf. Don't you think it's a fantastic story? Don't you love the story? I just love the story, right? And then, because we're thinking of, okay, we're selling service, so therefore we're going to call our program Total Care. And so instead of selling the artificial turf, we're going to lease it, we're going to maintain it, so we can ensure that it lasts longer, and at the end of use we take it back, so we own the field. Beautiful story. Well, didn't work. Didn't work. Because the market is just not ready. In the US, because this is a big market in the US, much bigger than in Europe. It's, I think in Europe we have more of what's called Grass Master, which is a mix of the Deso product, actually, which is a mix of artificial grass and natural grass. You find these fields in schools, universities, etc. But guess what? They'd rather than paying a fee every year to maintain and take care of the field and everything, it was easier to do for funding. So they will have a big event, get all the money from the parents or the donators, etc., and then they'll buy the field, and here we go. So I think Cradle to Cradle is the product are certified. We had done all the good. We've designed for disassembly. We've took care of the end of use. We've been able to, no waste to landfill. We have leasing programs, but the reality today is that it's difficult because the market is not always ready, and it will still take a little bit of time to get there. So the direction is right, and we're not going to change our direction. We know we're on the right track, but we will be lying to say that it just happens like this.
So you actually already answered the question, what is the difficulty in communicating the effect? But so what I've taken from the experience with introducing the whole idea is start small. And I think that is what you will catch up as well, Garance, if I understand your experiences.
I love that Anne said the same thing. So it starts small, learn quickly, which is one of our principles at Steelcase. So we started small. We had this relationship with McDonald's, right? And developed the fabric. So then to be able to certify a product. So it was our journey to go there. We excelled in that, of course. It's not only Cradle to Cradle or the material health framework that we implement into our products. Of course, you have to look at the life cycle. Of course, you have to look that the product actually is like reusable or recyclable at the end of life. So this is like embedded in our eco-design guidelines that we then bring to the project teams. To follow up on the market, right, so that it's hard in the market, it's, as I said, it's about changing mindsets. That's the challenge we have. Like in transforming business model as they are right now, well, products are the engine of a circular economy. However, you need to reinvent, as we call it, like the dark side of the moon, very Pink Floyd inspired. So we need to discover this dark side of the moon, and therefore we need to change the mindsets of people, right?
How difficult was it in your case to introduce that? Did you have problems with getting CEO involvement? No,
not really.
I'm making that joke. I know
Yeah.
it was in your hands,
Yeah.
but I know from other companies who said it was tremendously important to have top-down support.
That was maybe easy because I had to fight it out as a decider with myself, whether to go that route. But before I will tell you how we did it, I think we need to come back to the question of why. What's the motivation to undertake the cradle-to-cradle product certification? In our case, it's quite simple. We are energy intensive. We are using resources. We've been working very hard. All the metal companies do that in their processes to reduce the negative footprint by becoming resource efficient and energy efficient. But I thought, looking at that product, for instance, we use 1/6 of the regular zinc that you would normally see on other products with a standard process. You can't feel the low weight of the zinc because the steel is a bit heavy. I saw you almost cracked on the weight of the piece. But you need to know that the piece needs to carry lots of tons of impact. And you want that safety in your car when you drive 250 kilometers on the German Autobahn. But the point is we became very efficient, super efficient, hyper efficient. And in the end, I have a background in economics. You have negative marginal gains, actually marginal losses, when you turn the efficiency screw to the very last turn. So my question was, future, what is next? And my intuition was, we have a good product. We prolong the life of steel. Why should we basically be under fire just because we are energy intensive and using resources? So I came basically to the idea, across the idea of cradle to cradle, which is in the genetics of the metals, because the metals have since long a very well-established recycling system. But recycling, as we heard in other discussions, is not enough. So you take the next step, but it was motivation enough to fight, so to speak, for getting our products certified. And heavy metal people like us, we can't do things small. We have to do it big. So the target was the product with which we do basically at that time 90% of our turnover. If you do it, that's my firm conviction, and you're convinced of something, and you've thought about it, and it's your target. Speedily, yes, but full power.
What did the guy running your plant say when you said, now we're going to do cradle to cradle? I mean, I would assume they, and you know, the people at the zinc bath, they know that they're doing something differently. How did they react? I mean, it's one of the oldest businesses on this planet, right? To work with metal, and then you come and say, we're doing cradle to cradle.
Well, the good thing is, essentially, the process hasn't changed. They're still working in the same environment. We are doing things, or we use substances. We have adaptions, we have innovation, but we have been in our field quite a crazy company, so we stressed our plants always with something new, somewhere, right? Be it in the digital world, we were very first to introduce computers and production, so to speak, in our field. So I guess our people were only waiting for the next thing. They were simply not knowing what it was, and they first, I think, had the problem of understanding the concept of cradle to cradle. But in the end, I think after undertaking the whole exercise, they know that they're now working for a company with a future. And I think that's the important part of it. There's efforts to obtain the certification, but there's a lot of things to be gained. But I must say, in the beginning of the process, it was a top-down approach, discussing the concept and the feasibility. And then, I think that's the biggest transition you have to do to make it a bottom-up process, taking all the people along with you. We did this, for instance, after we obtained the certification, by having cradle-to-cradle ambassadors within our plants that tell basically their colleagues what we have done there. So that I think is important, internal communication about what you're doing.
Let's switch perspectives for a moment and look at it from the consumer's point of view, or customer side of view. What about your products is innovative, and what is being recognized by the customers? And is there any pull already from their side to look for certain things or not? Because I found that interesting this morning in the building discussion, that it's only a small percentage of actually end users looking for that. So I would like to know what is really getting out, what is being perceived, do they pay for it, do they ask for it? You said your marketing department is asking for it, but what about your customers? And I'm going to ask that to all three of you.
Well, I will say depends where in the world. What is sure is that more and more customers are asking for products that contain recycled material. So for instance, we have a product in the US where we use as a raw material for our carpet backing, which is a PVB film. When you look at your windshield in your car and it doesn't break as before, it's because you have a plastic film in between different layers of glass. When it breaks, you can recycle the glass, but then the plastic film was left. We take this, we reuse it, and we use it for carpet backing, and we are also at the end of use able to separate it from the carpet. So when we can sell a product with a very high amount of recycled material, there are two reasons for doing it. First, our customers are asking for more product with recycled material. Second, there is economic reason for doing it because it's much more attractive in terms of cost than using virgin material. So everybody is happy. Now, if you look at the US, you have the US Green Build certification, LEED certification, and you get more points if you have recycled materials and if you have full transparency. So using the cradle-to-cradle certification or to using what we call materials health statement, where we disclose everything that is in our product and we're fully transparent, is helping to get points under LEED. So this is really driving the demand from the customers. Now it could be, I was referring to the economics in Brazil. They were not able to compete against the Chinese import. What they were doing, it was a product where some of the material was coming from South America, another ingredient from Europe. Then they had calcium carbonate coming from the north of Brazil, and they were not recycling anything. So now what they've done, they're no longer buying any virgin material. They buy from a packaging company, and they take the waste. They use calcium carbonate from local, and they use renewable materials for one of the other ingredients. And they've been able to cut the cost of the overall product so much that now they can compete with the Chinese. So the customers do not, they've done everything according to cradle, so that was perfect. Is the customer asking for it? No, but the fact that they have economic value created from that approach is making it very positive for the customer.
Okay, thank you. What about the others, Garance?
So I would say it's so-so. So there's customers. Isn't it working? Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So there's customers, they want to comply. There's customers, they want to compete. And there's customers, they want to differentiate. And the customers that want to differentiate and create a well-being for their...
Just to make that clear, you talk about somebody who's equipping an office. And you say somebody says, we value our staff so much, we want to make sure they have the best possible environment to work. creativity islands. They have a salad bar in the evening, and we give them cradle-to-cradle furniture. Is that what you mean to differentiate, or who's making the decisions? Somebody buying furniture for an office.
Who's making?
Yeah,
So our client will be someone that wants to create this ecosystem made out of furniture.
Yeah. Okay.
For their people to enjoy like a healthy surrounding, a healthy ecosystem. And there is customers, as I said, so there's different levels of customers. So what we do is help our customers to differentiate with our cradle-to-cradle products or with our holistic approach to being sustainable and bringing this sustainable mindset that is core value in our company to our products and to the customer.
So let's take that a step further. I mean, we have what is called the war for talent in the human resources field. And people, I mean, like you, graduating from university, they ask for a lot of things. It's about what is the environment, how fast is the internet, can I do home office, and all those things. And one of the things is, how is the work environment? And companies really invest into making that different from either in Germany, the Großraumbüro has almost died out, but they're trying to differentiate it from the traditional fixed desk, whatever, one person, one desk thing, and try to create some cocooning areas and whatever form it takes to work, your mind to work, they provide for it. I mean, there are the big, Google is prominent for creating incredible work environments with a view on London, whatever. Is that what you're shooting at? I mean, do we come to a point where companies say, I'm an attractive employer because in my office you have cradle-to-cradle certified furniture? Yes.
So it's the one that wants to provide this environment to their employees, right? It's also that what we enjoy as Steelcase employees. It's like this possibility of joystick control. So I can go sit down in one of our lounge furniture when I just want to like rejuvenate and relax for a moment. Or I can go, when I want to work focused, I can go into one of the more enclosed spaces and like be really focused. So it's this kind of variety that allows you to pick what you need. So it's kind of those very big customers that do want that for their people, right? Offer different spaces, different kind of spaces.
You should equip offices together, shouldn't you?
Maybe another thing, and I'll hand it over to you, which I forgot to mention, is by having our cradle-to-cradle design, there are a lot of things we've done for the indoor air quality. And because our products are used indoor and the indoor air quality is critical, this has been driving, we have architects, and we have a beautiful story in the south of Sweden in a school where they've chosen, they've built like for this assembly, and every product they've chosen is cradle-to-cradle certified, but one of their main objective was the indoor quality for the children. And this is a good story to tell because they're able to prove it's working, and this is driving the choice of materials. Now, and then we go beyond this because at Deoso, they've developed a product called AirMaster that will actually capture the dust and so even clean the air. So with this design, it goes beyond cradle to cradle. It allows to also ensure the good indoor quality, to refer to what you're saying. And yes, of course, we know Steelcase very well. And I was telling Garance that I'm going to be talking innovation with Steelcase this coming Thursday.
So your customers, what do they appreciate? What do they see? What do they ask for?
Basically, it was not a challenge or something that the customers expected. I would reckon that in steel fabrication, in the building sector and different other sectors, 5 years ago when we started the process, if you would have asked people what is cradle to cradle, nobody really would have been in a position to explain the concept really. But I think in our case, we have a brand called Zinc, and I'm dedicated to develop the value of these brands. And in order to have value, you need to have content for brands. And in our case, it was quite clear that content should also be the contribution in terms of being positive of the product and the process towards the customers. Even if still today some customers don't know about the positive aspect of hot dip galvanizing in terms of cradle-to-cradle certification, we already have it included, just in case that in the future somebody will ask. We can demonstrate that we have undertaken the process, that we have a certified product, or all our products in hot dip galvanizing are certified. But coming from today, we understand that a lot of customers, basically the ones that take the decisions, like the OEMs, car manufacturers, like the product that you saw, but also other concerns, larger structures who might have issues with NGOs, looking what they are doing. They will hand you over a lot of lists of things that you shouldn't do, substances that you shouldn't have, and. We basically go to these customers today, and say, we won't fill out your forms, which actually they find striking, shocking. How can you not fill out our forms? Because we basically say we have cradle-to-cradle certified products. And if you read what is behind the certification, you will understand that all the answers are in that certification. We don't need to fill out your forms. And they actually like it. They're not yet there. Car manufacturers are not there. Steel manufacturers not in large numbers. They are not there to get cradle-to-cradle certified, but they are now starting to think about. And I think that's also one of the contributions, the major contributions of having a certification. It's for your own company, for your brand, for the content of what you're doing, but it's maybe also giving the impulse to the supply chain and making that supply chain, let's say, better defendable in an environment where people are starting to ask questions about the impact.
If you think about your products, is there anything where the cradle-to-cradle products differentiate you beyond the regular sustainability discussion? I mean, there's so many. I mean, I don't know how many catalogs you just, open and then it says sustainable product. So is there anything where you say, yes, there is more and we can explain it? Garance, I start with you. Just in a sentence, because we have still some more ground to cover today.
So I guess you're referring to the service models? So go beyond the products?
Example, I mean, if that is more than the regular sustainability does for you, yes.
What is regular sustainability? I think we...
There's so many, I mean, from the marketing point of view, there's so many products where it says sustainable. I mean, in food, we have the whole discussion, does EU bio-label mean anything? Those who come from the Neuland or Demeter, the very rigid labels, will say it doesn't mean anything. You know, it's not, it just means that they, I don't know, didn't kill a cow for harvesting it or something. But what I mean is there is a big, if you talk about sustainability, it's something you don't have to specify what it means. This morning we learned for buildings, there is a certificate explaining what it means. But if you talk about a desk or a chair, you can say sustainable. I open the brochure from, I don't know, Aldi, offers of the week, and it says sustainable and built in Germany. What is it that you do beyond with your products, or how do you get that across?
Okay, no.
It can be anything.
Yes.
It could mean
So
it's a recyclable carton around it.
It needs a holistic approach, right? So it needs the health aspect to it. It needs the ergonomic aspect. In our case, also the ergonomic aspect. So it's about people. It's about user-centric, user-focused design and offering this variety to people.
I mean, I would come back to the point of the discussions that you might have around your business models. and it's again about the future. Our business model can again be criticized for using resources and energy. And the cradle-to-cradle concept and the subsequent proof in light of a certification is getting me out of this efficiency trap in which I don't want to end up, because we can talk about going down, but it's not going to be enough. So what motivated me for Cradle to Cradle is really that I can tell people, because I'm doing the right things, I can do it. And again, I have a background in economics, and what I want is growth. We all want to have growth. We might not be willing to talk too much about how much we want to grow, but in essence, we are greedy types. We want to grow a lot. And the only way to grow a lot, and that's basically the substance of what I intend to say, is basically if you follow the lines of cradle to cradle. So it became attitude, value, yes, you implement, and then it becomes also part of your content, in our case of the Zinc brand, and the communication. And let's say what customers do with it or how they value it, that's a different story. But we've been doing it for us in order to get out of this trap of talking about things that are not really relevant. That's what I believe.
We talk about the economics in a moment.
So do you want me to answer? So I talked about the importance of the certification for getting lead points, obviously. But we were the first company who played the full transparency. So when when Cradle to Cradle was probably not as known as it is today, on all our products, we were actually indicating the indoor air quality, the emissions, indoor emissions. And we've been able to reduce by 100 times lower than the current standard at that time. So our products, were much, much lower in terms of emission and non-detectable emissions. And we were communicating this to our customers. And this has been so strong that we've changed the industry standard. So our competitors had to follow us. So that's what we've done on the product side, but also in our operations. When we have customers visiting our plants, they go for what is called the green tour. So instead of showing them machines and how do you do this with this machine and how do you do this with this machine, is how this machine or how this process, our recycling centers, we have 7 recycling centers, we have 9 design centers, so how do designers design for, according to Cradle principles, how in the plant we've implemented the Cradle principles, and so when they walk in the plant, they actually they understand how we implemented the fact that we're closing the water loop, that we're investing in biomass boilers, etc., and then we show them our recycling center, how we control what gets into our product, the end product we make. And so this becomes very real, and they like it so much that we have now, people from the government, the states, the European Council, Parliament, they're coming, and they say, how are you guys are doing it? So this is also a way of conveying the message beyond just having the certification, in our case.
Now we turn to the economics, because we've understood you can do it for yourself. You can do it because you feel better. But in the end, the big question is Cradle to Cradle more expensive? The big question. Is Cradle to Cradle more expensive? And if so, are you being rewarded for that? I learned in that case the example where this approach actually makes it even cheaper, so to be competitive, but I think maybe that's an exception. So are your products, or is Cradle to Cradle more expensive? And do you get rewarded for that?
I think we have a variety of Cradle-to-Cradle products. We have more than 50 of our products are certified, Cradle-to-Cradle certified. The main message, though, is that the Cradle-to-Cradle approach is in all of our products, because that's what we developed for a long time now. Since our CEO, our former CEO, Jim Hackett, saw this new opportunity, this new lens of innovation through the Cradle-to-Cradle approach, and worked together and supported working together with the McDonough Braungart Design Chemistry Institute.
But that doesn't answer the questions. Are your product, I mean, of course you can say
Yes,
it depends. I mean, what do you compare it to? Do you compare it to a Vitra chair or whatever? But I mean, it's always the big question, or maybe also the big prejudice that things have to be more expensive. Is that how they're being perceived? Is there a little extra,
I wouldn't say that. It's not about the price. I think it's about so we have more than 50 products from different price ranges. So to certify a product, it's mostly the ones with the highest volume, so the highest market demand. So of course we have in the mid-price range products that are Cradle to Cradle certified and can be offered to our customers.
Okay. What about your case? You're using less material, I've understood.
Yeah, but we are becoming increasingly expensive. We are a brand. Zinc is a brand. I know from McKinsey studies that in our case in the surface technology, I can ask for single-digit premiums. The only thing is I need to deliver a message with it, and the message cannot be we pay higher salaries or something like that, and that's why we have to be more expensive. No, we need to deliver something meaningful to the client, and Cradle to Cradle is becoming increasingly part of that message, of the content that we deliver. And yes, it comes as a cost, but cost is one item. Yes, of course, we would like to be cost leaders, but with the effort we put into sustainability, Cradle to Cradle, innovation and other things, we work with a lot of people that are not hot-dip galvanizers only, but are specialists from different fields. We do co-engineering, co-innovation, collaboration with our customers. Cradle to Cradle is enhancing our message to the customer. Yes, we come at a cost, and part of the cost is Cradle to Cradle, but it's worth the while. It's about quality. I mean, others might want to grow the quantity. I want to sell quality.
But in that case, the quality is recognized in the Zinc brand name, not in the Cradle to Cradle certificate.
I think the Cradle to Cradle is part of the package.
The Zinc brand.
Yes.
Okay. So, what about Tarkett?
So we're not selling our product more expensive because they're Cradle to Cradle. This is not going to happen, I don't think, unless you tell me different. But if you look at, but it's always difficult to say when the company has been growing by 7 to 8% per year. We had record profit last year. What is coming from, the fact that we're so much engaged and we're doing the right thing, and we had a positive impact on the many things we did also for our employees. In terms, the return we had, the satisfaction survey from our employees, the highest number was on our sustainability engagement, 95 or 6%. It's absolutely huge. So they're more motivated as well. So that helps. Now, what is coming from this? What is coming from good management? What is coming from the market? What is coming? It's kind of hard to say, but bottom line, we've been growing as a company, and we think we've been quite successful, and we'll continue along this path.
Let me ask you one thing, because I'm curious. Why did you buy Desso, and which role played the fact that they also were into the cradle-to-cradle field?
Okay, I can see Michael in the back of. I could say because Michael told us to do this, but no, it's not totally true. Actually, we had known Desso for quite some time. We even had looked at their artificial turf business when Steph was still in charge. And when the Desso was belonging to a private equity firm, we had an external growth strategy that was quite aggressive, and they were so much aligned in terms of their values, in terms of what they were doing with Cradle to Cradle, that not only was great as an acquisition, because even though in the past Tarkett had carpet, we didn't have carpet in Europe anymore, so we needed to add that because it was part of our multi-product strategy to actually be able to decorate or sell solution rather than products. And Desso was an obvious choice. So that was a good fit, very good fit.
And I understand that you also acquired some cradle-to-cradle competency and skills in that way.
I think I don't know what Michael will say. I think no, seriously, I think that the two companies were very much running on parallel paths. I think that Deso was much stronger in the way they were able to communicate on what they were doing, and they did a great job. I would say Tarkett has been much more quiet, but if you look at what Tarkett, given the size of the company, what they had achieved and the commitment, it was extremely impressive. So I think that Deso is benefiting from, in Tarkett we say what we do what we say, and we're very, an engineering company where, it's very important that we look at every single thing along the supply chain up to the end. But we're not very good communicator. I think that Deso, they were a great communicator, and the combination is just beneficial.
The combination is unbeatable, sounds like it, yeah. You had a quick remark, and then I would like to open it to the audience.
Yeah, simply to stress the aspect of employer branding. We see it within our company. The metal fabricating industry is not the most attractive sector you wish to work in, but Cradle to Cradle is one of the aspects. Innovation technology is another one, where you can basically recruit people and also base your retention policies on. Because people like to work for companies with a future, with certainty, with the next thing that comes on. And again, I must stress that the Cradle to Cradle certification helped us a lot in portraying the image of we are the ones positioned best in sustainability, because we are not only efficient, but we are also effective.
With that, I would like to open it to the audience. We have one mic. No, actually, we have a person running around with a mic, not a mic running around. Yeah, I see the first question in the back there.
Thank you. Thank you for your excellent presentations. I'm Lindsay Wood from New Zealand. We do have Tarkett in New Zealand as well, I'm happy to say. My question is primarily to Anne-Christine, but the others may wish to comment. Businesses operate in a competitive environment. And if we look at Elon Musk of Tesla and other fame, he released the patents on Tesla because he thought the climate change issues were so major that we needed to share this information. So one thing I'm interested in is a comment on sharing information that might help us address climate change or other major environmental benefits. But the other, and this is for Tarkett especially, is when we get a new threat to a company model or company operation, and I'm thinking of, for example, the chemical phthalates in vinyl, which has got serious implications for reproduction, as the opposite way to zinc. Suddenly, an existing company is under threat, and how far does it go defending its present position? How far does it just say, my gosh, we've got to change? So there are two ways of dealing with competition there. Thank you.
So we'll start by answering the second question. When I joined Tarkett end of 2009, the first thing we worked on was removing the phthalates. So nobody was talking about it. We started. There was no regulation. No one was forcing us to do it. But it was clear to us that because our products are used indoor, and there were some discussions, and it's still kind of hard to know who is right. They keep on debating. But we wanted to apply the precautionary principle and not take any chance of doing something that is wrong for our customers, our users. So we actually embarked on that journey, and actually the first time I met was Michael. He challenged us on this. He didn't even realize we had started the journey to remove the phthalates. So we've been driving the change in the world. We're in the process of finishing because you imagine the number of plants, and you need, it's easy to say we want to move away from phthalates, but when you're such a big company and you need so much raw materials, I mean, this is commodity for us, right? So we had already used, in Sweden, we were using a bioplasticizer, and that was working well, but you do not have the quantities that you need to make a big change, right? So we partner with a new supplier, which was not as part of our panel at that time, and develop new plasticizers, and that are safe to children, or for, you can even put in toys for that when the children put in the mouth. So we were pretty sure what, and we also had EPA confirming that we were doing the right thing, because we didn't want to change for something that was not going to be any good, right? And now we are in the process of doing it in Serbia, and as soon as we're done with this, we'll move to Russia. And then China is done, Brazil is done, every new acquisition is switching immediately. So now, I would lie to you if I were to say it was an easy journey. I think as a company, we were convinced we were doing the right thing. It was very important for our customers, and also feeling good about ourselves and feeling good about how we deal with our users. But there was a lot of lobby against us, and you have to be very strong and stick to what you want to do, despite the threat that you can get as a company, because you're moving away from existing product supplied by huge conglomerate that have much power than we do. But at the end, it worked out pretty well.
Okay, I suggest you were the second. Who was the second question? I think the gentleman with the blue shirt, yeah.
Thank you. Florian Sorg from Umwelttechnik BW, based in Stuttgart, a state agency. I have a question to Mr. Baumgürtel. When you look at, so understanding cradle to cradle, you looked at the substitution of chemicals and so forth, but cradle to cradle is also a part of circular economy. Can you assure what happens at the end of life with your zinc products, or are you just happy with what happens to them according to the legislation, to Altautoverordnung or something like that?
No, as I said, the loop basically for metals is well defined. For us, really, the emphasis was looking at the substances and the processes, which we did know in principle, but not the aspect of especially material health. I think that was one of the emphasis in our certification. But to answer your question, we are of course working on the system, closing the technical loop going all around. Our issue is that when you have a building structure made out of galvanized steel, it might come back to you when you are long gone. So it depends on the user of the building, 50, 60, 100 years without maintenance, and then it comes back. To where it comes back is an issue. And we are thinking about potentially, because we are interested on the zinc still on there, that's resource which we want to have back in our process. And we are working on a process achieving that we take off the old zinc, so to speak, and make it in a powder form so that you can basically then use it in facilities that are there, electrolysis installations where we would get the zinc back against the treatment charge. But the question is, how do we get to the old stuff where the zinc is on? And that's really something that needs to be considered. I would like to have a call option. Yeah? When a customer obviously is end of use, I would like to call and say, the surface is basically a title to me. I don't want to lease the surface out to him because that's quite complicated over 50 or 100 years. But I would like to have basically a discussion with the owner of the structure where the zinc is still on, that the zinc comes back to me. Steel is not an issue. Steel is, there's a cycle, but I learned from my discussion with the recycling industry that the zinc on the steel is considered a pollution. Now, how crazy is that? That's a nice pollution for me. Huh?
I think you the next.
Hello together, my name is Olivia, and I would like actually to add something to his question, so also directed to you. Because you talked about the application process and that actually in your industry there are substances that create an issue in order to be able to get the label. How do you overcome that issue? Like, did Cradle to Cradle support you to find alternatives for those solutions, solvents?
Yes, I think that's one of the functions when you enter the process, that you have partners on board. Michael Baumgart, by his profession, is a chemist. I'm not, so I need help in order to evaluate what is happening in the processes. But I must say it's not only a metal fabrication problem or surface technology problem. All of the processes have material issues. The question is, with whom can you work with to identify the issue? And then you need to go back to the suppliers. In our case, for the chemicals, we have suppliers. You need to discuss with them how to change and how to innovate in order for you to get a clean cradle-to-cradle certifiable process. The product in our case was fine. That is not the issue. Again, the issues lay within the process to get the product.
Thank you. The next question goes to the gentleman in the back with a blue-black sweater. Yeah.
My name is Ole Benz. I'm from Utrecht University. Question to Anne-Christine Ayet. You said that the market was not ready for your product service system. How can you get the market to be ready for these PSS models?
That's a very good question. I gave the story of artificial grass, but that also is the same story for Deso Carpet with the leasing program. So we haven't changed our mind, so we're going to continue and try. And one of the ideas is to partner with some of lead users. So for instance, there is a big project in Luxembourg for the city, one of the city actually where we have our innovation center to make it a hotspot circular economy where Cradle to Cradle is really helping with building the right way. And they obviously want to have cradle-to-cradle products, and they're very much interested in the leasing. So we're going to run different pilots to prove it makes sense and try to grow from there. We're going to continue to offer the service, but there is nothing we as a company can do to really change. I mean, we can drive it, we can continue to offer, we can be creative, find the lead users. But to be able to change the market as such, I think it's going to come as the more we have building as materials bank, the easier it will become. But it's like everything, you need to work with the leaders in the market to be able to prove it's the way to do it.
Thank you. And I suggest that the final question goes to the lady in blue in the front row. Yeah, there comes the mic.
Hi, my name is Ulrike Linnig, and I have a question about the role of IT. So in the last year or so, I've read quite a few articles about how digitalization can be a great enabler for the circular economy. So when you think about using sensors to automate processes, but also, which I think is the more interesting part, is how you use IT to track information about raw materials. And I'd just be curious, in your companies, so in the real world, is this something you see? Is it something you see as beneficial? Or is it actually something that's not such an important aspect for you when it comes to embedding circular economy or cradle-to-cradle principles in your business?
Do we want to take that from the right to the left?
Okay. So as for technology, I think we need to embrace it more with facing the circular economy and with thriving in the circular economy. We have one service system which is called data analytics. So we kind of investigate how the space is used. So to offer the clients and also our spaces to be used as efficient as possible, so as sustainable as possible. So if there is a light on, the system will notice there is nobody in there. Yes.
Well, we invested in technologies to allow our customers to track their products throughout our processes. We are also exchanging information with the suppliers over digital platforms. So for me, it's a good tool in order to steer and to control what is going on, and it's also from that perspective a tool to give a status to be able to assess the status of the cradle-to-cradle certification?
So we're doing many things related to the development of the new technologies. First, yes, there is the access to the information. So I told you earlier that we're playing full transparency, and therefore, the data are on platforms in terms of what the product contains. We obviously have lots of projects in our factories for preventive maintenance. We have a project that is just starting to be able to trace and track our products, during their use. But I think what we're very proud of is digital printing. And why is digital printing so good? You can imagine, I'm sure you've seen how we print packaging, and you have these huge cylinders, and then you have inks, and you have, each time you want to have a new design, you need to take your cylinder, have it re-engraved and transported and back, and you make quite a bit of product, because otherwise it costs too much, so you really have to pay for the cost of the engraving. Now with digital printing, we have designers anywhere in the world, and it takes less than 2 seconds to change from one design to the other. So it's totally on demand. We have no stock. It's changing the business model, it's changing the supply chain, it's changing the way our designers work. So it's having a huge impact, and it's so well aligned with our economy approach and cradle-to-cradle approach.
Thank you very much. That draws this meeting or this session to an end. Oh, did you want to compliment on that?
I wanted to add something to the digital printing. So there's also 3D printing, right? So we also implemented that, and we are actually using PLA, which is like biodegradable plastic. So being sustainable there and offering the choices.
As I said, that brings the session to an end, and I would not like to end before asking the panelists for a favor. I love to work with people who represent companies which produce real stuff, because I always ask if you have left anything over. If your customers don't like the pattern they ordered and you implement it within 2 seconds, we're happy to take whatever is left. I have not yet an idea what we do with your stuff, and I know you don't have anything left. But we're being asked for flooring, we're being asked for everything for social organizations in Germany. So if you ever want to get rid of something, which is tougher with the cradle-to-cradle companies than with any regular consumer goods companies. But please, if you think of Innatura, we're not just distributing condoms. That was a misunderstanding this morning. We distribute about 1,500 different articles for all areas of need within social organizations and for beneficiaries. Thanks so much for attending. It sounds like the coffee break is already open, but before we leave, I think Nora is going to come forward for a final thank. I think you're coming forward for a final thank you to our panelists. Thanks for coming.